Alright, so today is time for another foundation updates video. I have 4 foundations to talk about this time. Last foundation roundup video, I had 6 foundations, so I'm going to leave that one in the eye and down below. These are full reviews on foundations after I've thoroughly tested them. Sometimes in first impressions or in try-on hauls, you know, you get like initial impressions of products, which is great, but I like to follow up on products and give more thorough reviews after I feel like I fully have a grip on them, what I think of them, what I like, what I don't like, try them in other ways. Today we have 4 different foundations, but they're actually all drugstore. It just worked out like that. Let's get into it. If you enjoy this video and find it helpful, you can give it a thumbs up. If you are new here, I used to do a whole series called 15 Days of Foundations. I think I have like 6 or 7 seasons of that. And I used to do Foundation Friday. So I have hundreds of foundation reviews on my channel. If you ever want to see what I think of a product, you can search my name in the foundation and hopefully a video will pop up for you. All right, let me whip out my notes here, aka my iPad. So starting off with the Neutrogena Matte CC Cream. This comes in 34 shades, which actually for the drugstore and for being a CC cream, that's actually a really nice shade range. Most BB cream CC creams have like max 10 shades, drugstore or high-end, so it's actually awesome that they came out with 34 shades of this. It has 1 fluid ounce of product and it retails for between $10 and $15, always depending on where you get it. Drugstore products you can almost always find on sale, whether it's on Amazon, at the drugstore. I have the shade Sand 4.0. I've been wearing self-tanner, so these are all of my kind of tanner shades, various levels of tanner. For my like fresh tan, I could definitely go a couple shades deeper than this. This is kind of like on like 3rd or 4th day tanner, just for reference. So I like to kind of give what the brand says and then give my own thoughts on that description and my experience with it. So they say it's full coverage, developed specifically for acne-prone skin, has niacinamide, no oil, fragrance, parabens, or sulfates. It color corrects to mask imperfections and even skin tones. Hypoallergenic, won't clog pores or make acne worse. I used to have cystic acne. I went on Accutane. I have a whole series on my channel documenting that process. It was years ago, but thank you modern medicine, I no longer have acne. So obviously I can't speak to any of like the acne claims with this one, but certain products still do slightly break me out. Like I'll get like those under the skin small bumps from certain products, not full breakouts. The coverage of this one surprised me. This is full coverage. It has a lot of coverage. Typically for me, if I use a brush with pretty much any product, I get more full coverage than if I'm using a sponge or my hands, and that is the case with this one. Brush definitely gives you like pretty full coverage, but texture wise I do feel like this one can look a little bit heavy with a brush. It does look more like just foundation-y, and with a sponge it looks a little more skin-like. Today I just put on the Bliss Box Star, but I actually mixed it, this SPF, with the Neutrogena Matte CC Cream. Oh, there's my face. Mixed these two together and then just applied it with my fingers like I would an SPF, just like blended it in, and this one gave a lot more coverage. I think I could have used a little bit less of the Neutrogena, but I did put on this underneath, Hydro Glow Primer, just a little bit of this. So I think that's like a little bit of the glow you're seeing, but also the lights just like reflect a little more. I would say it looks like satin finish in real life. I think the finish might look more true in here to how it actually looks. Up close, there's like a few parts that look a little makeup-y, but that's kind of how it goes with the Neutrogena. A little bit of this goes a long way. You do not need a lot of product. It's pretty matte with both, but I do feel like it's more matte with a brush. So this one can look a little bit heavy around the pores and a little bit cakey. Especially with this product, I definitely moisturize and prep my skin really well underneath. The products that you put underneath foundation can super make a difference to just how it sits, the overall finish. There is a difference with certain products underneath and over top. Probably the main thing I don't like with this one is that when it dries down, I do feel like it can kind of like settle into creases, settle into lines, and just look a little bit heavier than when you initially put it on. It's not one of those products that I feel like really warms up to your skin throughout the day. I think it can look slightly more makeup-y throughout the day. It's not to the point where I've stopped using it. Like I still put this on and I like enjoy putting it on, but it's not a product that I feel like I would specifically recommend over like some others I'm going to talk about. But if you like full coverage and you like matte, those things can be a little bit harder to find from the drugstore, especially now. I feel like a lot of the foundations coming out are more like lighter coverage, glowy, because that's kind of like trendy right now. So if you do need something that hopefully won't clog your pores and that's full coverage and matte, like it's not a bad option. And I definitely think there's ways to make this look more skin-like. Use a setting spray, use less product. I don't love it. I don't think it's like an incredible foundation, but don't love it, don't hate it. All right, so next up we have my favorite out of all 4 of the products I'm going to be talking about today, which is the Joah BB cream. This has 1 fluid ounce of product, comes in 8 shades, so like I said, a lot of BB creams, CC creams are usually like under 10 shades, especially drugstore, but it's $10. Joah is cruelty free. The shade Light with Cool Undertones. I really do love the undertone of this one on me. They say it's a multitasking natural finish BB cream that blurs, hydrates, and protects. Lightweight formula, medium buildable coverage to blur imperfection and even skin tone. Natural velvet finish. Also, this one is vegan and gluten-free if you need that. So I love this one, but I don't agree with a couple of those claims, or I would just like describe it differently. I wouldn't say this is necessarily lightweight. I do think it feels like a cream. I would compare the consistency a little bit to Purito. Purito is like one of my holy grail products of all time. It has great coverage, it sits on the skin beautifully, it lasts well. But this has that same like creaminess, moisture. I don't think it feels heavy, but I wouldn't describe it as like a lightweight product. Natural velvet finish. Okay, so this one is interesting because this can super adjust to whatever you put underneath and over top. So I'm actually wearing it right now, and today I did apply it with the Bliss Block Star SPF underneath. This is one of my favorite products to use as a base. It's both an SPF, a little bit blurring, mattifying, but not drying. I talked a lot about this in my last foundation updates video. So right now, my face actually I've had on for about 4 hours at this point, and I went on like a 2-hour, hour and a half, 2-hour walk outside in about 80-degree weather. So this is after all of that. But this BB cream does really adjust to whatever you put underneath. So I find when I use like the Joah Hydro Glow primer, which I've been loving, this is super glowy, super moisturizing, but not greasy at all, just like creamy, sinks in, really beautiful. If you want that super glowy like glass skin look, love these two together. But the Joah goes on over top beautifully over anything I put it on top of. It just looks different, like the finish just changes, but it works with literally anything I've used. Most days lately I've been using the Dime Tinted SPF, so I'll put that on and then I'll put a little bit of this on over top or another product I'll talk about. The number one thing I love about this is that it is so unique in that it looks glowy, but to the touch, it is dry. It doesn't transfer, it is fully dry. You get that glow and that sheen and that like healthy skin look, but to the touch, it is fully dry. I love that because a lot of products that are dewy, you know, when you touch your face, like it's coming off, it's dewy. This one just has the dewy appearance, but it actually like sets down and is dry. So that's huge. I actually love it best with my hands. It looks so beautifully when you just apply it with your hands blended in or with a sponge. I mean, I like it with a brush too, but I just feel like I usually go in with a sponge or my hands with this one. They say medium buildable coverage. I would agree with that. I mean, depending on how much I use, how I apply it, with a brush, I get full coverage with this. But with my hands or with a sponge, I would agree with medium buildable coverage. So I would say this one does have definitely less coverage than the Neutrogena, but not significantly. Like this still has a decent amount of coverage. Comparing it to Purito, I would say like Purito looks maybe 5% more skin-like. They're very close, but I would say Purito looks a little bit more skin-like. And Purito, I can sheer out a little bit easier. So I've been oh my god, that scared the shit out of me. But this one, I love that it doesn't transfer and it's just like on there. That is huge, like I've said 10 times. Coffee break. Really got to get my nails done. They're growing out. Next up, and by the way, I bought all these myself. I just happen to have 2 Joah foundations in here because they had 2 new launches. So this is the Joah Crystal Glow Peptide Infused Foundation. This one is $16, cruelty free, and is 16 shades and $16. So I have the shade MN10, have that memorized. Light to medium with neutral undertones. This one, if you're wondering like shade wise, this shade is a little bit darker than the shade I have in the BB cream. This one they say is a peptide infused foundation, a triple blend of primer, coverage, and skin boosting ingredients. Seamless, natural looking coverage. It's supposed to give the iconic Korean glass skin glow. Lightweight, buildable coverage, reduces the appearance of fine line spots, blemishes, blah, blah, blah. My thoughts on this one. So I featured this in my like current summery glowy foundation routine video. I love this used in a really specific way, like very specific. Basically, exactly this routine. If you follow this routine, hopefully you like this as much as I do with that routine. I use the smallest amount, like literally the tiniest dot and just blend it out with a sponge. But before that, like when I had been testing this for I think a month before I started using the dime one, I liked it, but I wasn't like in love with it. It was only when I started doing exactly that combination that I was like, whoa, my skin looks freaking good and like glass skin like. This one on its own is not my favorite. I also feel like it doesn't last as well throughout the day as the BB creams. If you're just throwing this on like a normal foundation, not using that underneath, like I do still like it and I think it looks good on its own, but it's not long lasting. And I do notice throughout the day that my face just doesn't look as good as it did at the beginning, but it does look very beautiful and luminizing, glowy skin like. It is a different consistency than this one. I would say this one is more of like a lightweight, not serum, just like lightweight liquid foundation kind of feel. And this one doesn't dry down in the same way that the Joah does. This does, you know, have that just like a little bit tackier of a feel. It doesn't bother me at all, but it doesn't fully dry down. The camera just stopped recording and I just tried to turn it on with both of my legs fully asleep. Almost just had a header. I really can't feel my legs right now. Okay, and then last up we have the Covergirl Clean Matte BB Cream, which this is actually not a new product. It's just one that I used to love when I had acne and I just wanted to retry. I just got curious. In the shade 540 medium, I used to absolutely love this. It used to be in a little bit different of packaging. This, I'll see if I can find the old design. Remember the Gorgeous foundation? They also made at one point the Gorgeous, which was really pretty. The best drugstore foundations always get discontinued. But anyways, so this one only comes in 6 shades. Like I said, pretty classic for BB creams. Doesn't make it right, but it's $11. The old packaging you can actually find on Amazon for about $7, but keep in mind that's probably super expired because it's the old packaging. Covergirl is now cruelty-free. So this used to be a favorite of mine. The thing that always stood out to me with this is when I had oily skin, this was one of the best oil controlling products I had found. It's very lightweight and it just has this super unique quality to it that you don't find in a lot of face products. This was like a game changer for me with my oily skin. Now, after Accutane, my skin is not oily. Right now, I'm just pretty normal, leaning normal to dry, but just pretty normal all around. So I wanted to see if I would have a different experience with it now. It says it's specifically made for oily skin, matte BB cream that will keep you shine free all day long, natural looking skin. This is, like I said, unique formula. It's one of the more lightweight products on the market. Interesting consistency. It's lightweight but creamy, but it dries down very fast, like super fast. You have to work in sections with this one. This does have a matte finish, by the way. It's like a natural matte finish. To the touch, it is dry. So that's another plus. Like the Joah, this one to the touch does dry down. I think brush is the way to go with this one. Sponge can work, but I think a brush just applies it a little bit better. I almost think it, like the sponge does a weird thing if you use a wet sponge, like a damp sponge. There's something weird with, because it dries down so fast and the oil controlling thing, like it just doesn't quite go on right with a sponge, I feel like. This one is not as full coverage as either of these two. With a brush, I would say it's about medium coverage, but it is much more lightweight than the Neutrogena. This is more of like that creamy, like thicker kind of cream. This one is totally different, just super lightweight. The bottle does annoy me, like product just kind of like spills out of here. As someone who doesn't have oily skin anymore, there's products that look a little bit better on my skin, but this one still can work, doesn't look bad, but out of all these, it's probably the one that I've reached for the least, but I don't have oily skin. So I think if you are someone who has super oily skin and a lot of products just don't stick on your skin, wear off throughout the day, I think this one is worth a shot, because like I remember trying so many high-end drugstore primers. Like when you have oily skin, you try everything and most products just don't friggin' stick on your skin. And I remember this being one of the few that was like incredible. So those are my thoughts on all 4 products, drugstore products I've been testing. And let me know if you've tried any of these, what your experience has been down below. My go-to foundation brush is this one by Haley's Beauty. I'll link it down below. And then also my go-to sponge will also be linked down below. Both you can get on Amazon. It's what I'm using in any of the clips anytime I'm doing my makeup, applying foundation. It's one of these. I feel like there haven't been that many new high-end foundation launches that I've been into. It's weird, it always goes in waves. Like before the last foundation roundup video, there were a bunch of high-end foundations I wanted to try, and right now there's just not. We're in a little bit of a high-end foundation drought. I'm sure they're coming. If there are any other specific foundations you want me to test for the next roundup video, do let me know down below. But I hope these videos are helpful for you guys. And like I always say, everyone's skin is different. Products truly wear differently on different types of skin, different people, what you put under and over top. So I hope you have a good experience if you try a product I've recommended. Everything I talk about will be listed down below in the description box along with the rest of the makeup that I'm wearing today. Hope you guys enjoyed. I love you guys. Thanks for watching. See you in my next video. Bye.